Hey guys, Abner Randy here. That drill looked pretty much straightforward, didn't it? Gun comes out, acquire the shot, take the shot, retract, check to make sure that no one else needs to be shot, and then holster the weapon. But if you noticed, what I did was I actually hooked it up to a scabbard holster that I made. It's a piece that I made a while back after watching, it was a couple years ago, after watching a video or two on working with Kydex. I realized that really all I needed to do was take Kydex, and I had a lot of Kydex on hand, and realized that all I really needed to do was to take a little piece of Kydex, I guess it was probably about that big, and I wrapped it in a handkerchief, in a linen handkerchief, and put it on the ironing board, and a combination of heat and steam just to make sure that I wasn't scalding the thing. And I would just heat one side, flip it over inside the handkerchief, heat the other side, and just a pass or two, flip it. A pass or two, flip it. Oh, I'd also preheated the ironing board before I started. And I just did this over and over and over and over until I could pick up the Kydex in the handkerchief, and the Kydex would basically go like that and slump. And that's when I knew it was ready. I then took it and I wrapped it around the trigger guard, and it covered the entire area. And then I wrapped an ace bandage around the gun really, really tight. I dropped it on the laundry room floor where I happened to be, braced myself against both walls, bared my heel right here on the Glock, and stood on one leg on the Glock for about a minute or so. And I just bared down on it as hard as I could. I don't think I put anything on the floor, because the ace bandage by that point had enough padding. It had created enough padding. So anyways, in doing so, it drove it into the trigger guard. Did a fairly decent job, but then I was able to take a lighter to it, light it up, and squeeze it in with my fingers. And what I was left with was a piece of Kydex that really did a nice job of hanging on to the gun. It had a really decent amount of retention to it. And then I just took a Dremel with one of the sharpening wheels for like pruning shears, and did a fast pass straight through, and then took gray paracord that I happen to have on hand, true mil-spec paracord, cut a length off, and here's the key: pull all the internal twine, or the internal threads out of the paracord so that it renders a very thin paracord. And with ordinary needle and thread, sew it multiple times there, and then multiple times there, and then double it over on itself here, and then sew it multiple times at the base, right there. And what you end up with is a scabbard holster that passes, you basically pass it up or down, it doesn't really matter, through your belt, and then you pass the trigger guard holster through itself, and you pull it tight against your belt, and then hook the Glock to it. And I'll just show you by actually attaching it to the belt. Take the gun, obviously make sure that it's not chambered, because you're going to be manipulating that firearm. I pass it under the belt, pass the trigger guard holster through itself, pull and orient the place where the fabric passes past itself through the loop. I actually orient it to the very top. There's a reason for that, and I'll show you why in a minute. Then take the Glock, chamber, verify that you're chambered. I always just do the chamber loaded indicator. I have a video on this, nobody lose your mind. Then you can either go straight in like this, and it does a really nice job of hiding against the body. In fact, I'll show you this way first. And profile, which is where guns normally stick out, doesn't really print, does it? I mean, a little bit right there. As humans, we tend to eyeball each other when we're walking toward one another, so really printing when you're walking past someone really isn't that big of a deal, because they're not really looking at you. But when you're walking toward a person, good luck seeing this thing. If printing is an issue to you, if you just cannot get caught with a gun, watch. Dump it right down the front of your pants. Even, okay, keep the comments under control. It is really hard to tell that there's a gun on me. And guys, it disappears right down the front of your pants. If someone says, you know, show me, you could be like, look, don't have a gun on me, right? And you can get to it relatively efficiently. It's already up where I need it to be, so it's a matter of, even if you're not going to be drawing it, it's a matter of just hooking it back in position. Now it's oriented in a position that I can get to it quickly if I have to. No, it's not the prettiest of draws, but this is not a typical holstering technique. There are things that people need to understand about working with scabbard holsters or Vanguard type holsters, which is how some people know these. You got to understand, guys, there is a massive give and take if you choose to run with this, because remember, with this, let's say you take the shots, pop, 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 pop. The subject is down. Remember, in an active killer situation, you have to holster quickly, because when the next set of good guys comes around the corner and there's a bloodied person on the floor and whoever else he popped, you are now the guy standing with the gun. And you might accidentally get shot by default, rightfully so, by the Good Samaritan who's coming and responding to the sound of gunfire. So as soon as you have reasonably dropped this person, and for whatever protocols you have set forth for yourself to decide that I should now holster, you got to get that gun out of your hand quickly. Now you're going to have to go to two hands to do this. If you're having to go hands-on to grab something, hold pressure on someone's wound or pressure on your own wound, you're going to have to let go, because you're going to have to do two-handed. Yeah, you could always holster in the back by sliding it in. I'm not even going to do it because I do not want to be the guy who shoots himself on camera. There are enough of those people on YouTube. I'm not going to be one of them. This requires a concerted effort to do. It's not that big of a deal, you know, difficulty-wise, but it does require two hands to do it properly and consistently, and then holster. So, I showed you how to make the thing, showed you how it's used. Consider this as a deep concealment option where you got to have a gun on you, but man, you just cannot be seen as a gun packing person. And look at it more along the lines of, if I need it, I'm just going to let the chips fall where they may, kind of a thing. Remember, guys, not right, not wrong. It's your choice versus my choice. Not right, not wrong, not right, not wrong. I'm just showing you an option. But I want to show you all the things that go with working with one of these. Oh, the last thing that I'll leave you with is this. Once I did the, let's get this gun cleared. Once I did the Kydex and got it shaped the way I wanted it, I then took a Sharpie and drew around the contours of the gun. And oh, and I also made a relief cut here with the Dremel on the Kydex to minimize any chance of there being a breakage issue right here. And I rounded the edges of that hole, obviously off the gun. I rounded the edges so that a crack would not begin to form and work its way up alongside the edge. And then, of course, I had to relieve material here, because the middle finger has to have enough clearance when the gun comes out for the holster to come off the trigger guard. See? Because if I were to run it all the way under to here, which is where it originally was, every time that I would go to draw, it would push my middle finger off. It was causing an issue. So this is kind of a learning curve to this kind of thing. And but it's worth it. I carry this with me everywhere I go, even though I holster in a drop out of sight from Bravo Concealment. I carry this with me everywhere I go, because there's the off chance every once in a while that I have to have this with me, as opposed to a holster that just kind of shows a little too much. All right, guys, that's what I got for you. Think about it, And if you have any comments, questions, shoot them to me in the comment section. As always, I thank you guys for watching. God bless you all. Get those guns out in practice. Have a good one.